The woman's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the busy bakery like a prayer. "Any expired pastry for my son?" Her hands trembled as she held a small boy close to her side. The millionaire standing 3 people behind her in line froze. He had walked into this place for a coffee. He had no idea he was about to witness something that would change everything. Before we continue, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Black Voices. We share real stories that matter. Stories about resilience, kindness, and the voices that deserve to be heard. If this story touches you, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters here. Now, let's continue. It was a cold Tuesday morning in Detroit, and the smell of fresh bread filled the small corner bakery on Woodward Avenue, the kind of place where people lined up before work, grabbing coffee and croissants, barely looking up from their phones. Outside, the wind pushed through the streets, rattling the windows of old buildings and empty storefronts. Inside, warmth. Inside, the hum of espresso machines and quiet conversations. Marcus Webb stood near the back of the line, wearing a tailored wool coat and leather gloves. He was in town for a business meeting, the kind that would close a deal worth millions. He had been to dozens of cities, hundreds of bakeries. This one was no different, or so he thought. The line moved slowly. Marcus checked his watch. He had 20 minutes before his car would arrive. Plenty of time. He glanced around, half listening to the conversations around him. A man complained about traffic. A woman ordered 3 lattes with specific instructions. Normal, routine, forgettable. Then he saw her. She stood near the counter, but not quite in line. A black woman, maybe in her early 30s, wearing a thin jacket that looked 2 sizes too big. Her jeans were worn at the knees. Her sneakers had seen better days, but it was her face that stopped him. Exhaustion, the kind that settles deep into the bones, the kind that comes from nights without sleep and days without rest. Beside her stood a boy. He couldn't have been more than 6 years old. He wore a puffy coat that was slightly too small, and his hands were tucked into the pockets. His eyes were wide, looking at the pastries behind the glass like they were treasures in a museum. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder, gently, protectively. Marcus watched as she took a step forward, then hesitated. She glanced at the line, then at the counter, then back at her son. She was trying to decide something, trying to find the courage. Finally, she approached the counter. The young woman behind the register looked up with a polite smile. "What can I get for you?" The mother's voice was soft, almost apologetic. "I was wondering, do you have any expired pastries? Anything you're going to throw out? For my son?" The question hung in the air. The cashier blinked, caught off guard. I'm not sure. Let me check." She turned and called toward the back. "Hey, do we have any day-old stuff we're tossing?" A man's voice came from the kitchen. "Not really. We donate most of it at the end of the day." The cashier turned back, her smile a little tighter now. "Sorry, we don't have anything right now. Everything's pretty fresh." The mother nodded quickly like she had expected this. "Okay, thank you." She turned to leave, her hand still on her son's shoulder. But the boy didn't move. He looked up at his mother, his voice small and confused. "Mama, I'm hungry." She crouched down, eye level with him, and brushed a hand across his cheek. "I know, baby, I know. We'll find something, okay? We'll find something." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He had seen poverty before. He had written checks to charities, attended galas, made donations. But this was different. This was right in front of him. Real, immediate. A mother and her son, standing in a warm bakery asking for scraps. The woman stood and began to walk toward the door. The boy followed, his small hand now holding hers. Marcus didn't think. He just moved. "Wait," he called out, his voice louder than he intended. The mother stopped and turned, her eyes cautious. Marcus stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Up close, he could see the weariness in her face, the way her shoulders seemed to carry weight that wasn't visible. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, his voice softer now. "I couldn't help but overhear. Can I buy something for your son, please?" The woman's eyes widened, then narrowed slightly. Pride, shame, a mix of both. We're okay. Thank you." "I know you are," Marcus said gently. "But I'd really like to. Just a pastry. Maybe a sandwich. Some juice, please." The boy looked up at his mother, hope flickering in his eyes. The mother hesitated, her jaw tightening. Then slowly she nodded. Okay, thank you. Marcus turned to the cashier. Can you get him a few things? Some pastries, a sandwich, maybe a hot chocolate? The cashier nodded, already moving. Of course. Marcus looked back at the mother. Would you like something too? She shook her head quickly. No, I'm fine. Just him. Marcus didn't push. He paid for the food and waited as the cashier prepared a small bag. When it was ready, he handed it to the boy, who took it with both hands, his eyes wide. Thank you, the boy whispered. You're welcome, Marcus said, smiling. The mother placed a hand on her son's head, then looked at Marcus. Thank you, really. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, Marcus said, and he meant it. They stood there for a moment, the noise of the bakery swirling around them. Then the mother turned to leave again, her son clutching the bag like a lifeline. But Marcus wasn't done. Wait, he said again. Can I ask you something? She stopped, her expression guarded. What? Are you okay? I mean, do you need help? More than just this. The question was direct, maybe too direct. The mother's face hardened. We're fine. We're managing. I'm not trying to offend you, Marcus said quickly. I see you. I see your son. And I want to help if I can. She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Then slowly, the hardness softened. Why? You don't know us. No, I don't, Marcus admitted. But that doesn't mean I can't care. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. We're staying at a shelter. We lost our apartment 3 months ago. I've been looking for work, but it's hard when you don't have childcare. Hard when you don't have an address. Hard when you look like this. She gestured to herself, to her worn clothes, her tired face. Marcus felt his throat tighten. What's your name? Shanice. And this is Elijah. I'm Marcus. He paused, thinking. Shanice, I want to help you. I don't know exactly how yet, but I want to try. Can I get your phone number? Or a way to reach you? She hesitated again, the walls going back up. Why would you do that? Because I can, Marcus said simply. Because you asked for help in the only way you knew how. And because your son deserves more than expired pastries. Shanice's lip trembled. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a phone, old and cracked. I have a number. It's a prepaid phone, so sometimes it doesn't work, but... Here. She gave him the number. Marcus saved it immediately. I'm going to call you, he said. In the next day or two, and we're going to figure something out, okay? She nodded, unable to speak. Marcus knelt down to Elijah's level. You take care of your mom, all right? Elijah nodded seriously. I will. Marcus stood and watched as Shanice and Elijah walked out of the bakery and into the cold Detroit morning. The door closed behind them and the noise of the bakery returned. People ordering coffee, people complaining about traffic, people moving on with their lives. But Marcus couldn't move on, not yet. He canceled his meeting. He spent the rest of that day making calls, pulling strings, reaching out to people he knew. He owned several businesses, had connections across the city. If he couldn't help one mother and her son, what was the point of any of it? 2 days later, he called Shanice. She answered on the third ring, her voice hesitant. Hello? Shanice, it's Marcus. From the bakery. A pause. I remember. I want to meet with you. Talk about some options. I've been working on a few things and I think I can help. Are you available? Another pause. Then quietly, yes. They met at a small diner near the shelter where Shanice and Elijah were staying. Marcus arrived early, ordering coffee and waiting. When Shanice walked in, Elijah by her side, Marcus stood and waved them over. They sat across from each other, the table between them. Elijah colored on a placemat with crayons the waitress had brought over. Marcus didn't waste time. I've been thinking about your situation, and I want to offer you a job. Shanice, his eyes widened. A job? I own a logistics company. We need someone to help with administrative work, scheduling, data entry. It's full-time with benefits. Childcare assistance included. Shanice stared at him, her mouth slightly open. I don't understand. You don't even know me. You don't know if I can do the work. I'm willing to take the chance, Marcus said. And I'm willing to train you if you need it. But I believe in giving people opportunities. Real opportunities. Tears filled her eyes again, and this time they spilled over. Why are you doing this? Marcus leaned forward, his voice steady. Because I saw you. I saw you ask for help, not for yourself, but for your son. I saw your dignity, your love, your strength. And I thought, if I have the power to change this, why wouldn't I? Shanice wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Marcus said with a small smile. She laughed, a sound that was half sob, half joy. Yes, I'll take it. Marcus nodded. Good. We'll get you set up with an apartment, too. First month's rent covered. You'll need a stable place to live before you start. Shanice shook her head in disbelief. This doesn't feel real. It's real, Marcus assured her. And you deserve it. Over the next few weeks, Marcus kept his word. He helped Shanice find a small 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood. He arranged for childcare for Elijah, a program connected to a local community center. He brought her into his company, introduced her to the team, and gave her the training and support she needed. Shanice worked hard, harder than anyone Marcus had ever seen. She showed up early, stayed late, asked questions, learned quickly. She was determined to prove that his faith in her wasn't misplaced. Elijah thrived too. He started school, made friends, and came home every day with stories and drawings. Shanice would pin them on the fridge, her heart swelling with pride. One evening, about 3 months after that day in the bakery, Shanice stopped by Marcus's office. She knocked lightly on the doorframe, and he looked up from his desk. Hey, Shanice. What's up? She stepped inside, holding something in her hands. I wanted to give you this. She handed him a handwritten letter. Marcus opened it and read. It was a thank you note, simple and heartfelt. It talked about how her life had changed, how Elijah was happy, how she finally felt like she could breathe again. It thanked him not just for the job, but for seeing her as a person, for treating her with dignity, for giving her a chance when no one else would. Marcus felt his eyes sting as he read the last line. You didn't just give me a job, you gave me my life back. He looked up at Shanice, who was wiping tears from her cheeks. Thank you, he said quietly, for letting me be part of this. She smiled, a real smile full of hope. No, thank you. As Shanice left his office, Marcus sat back in his chair, the letter still in his hands. He thought about that morning in the bakery, about the question that had seemed so small, so insignificant to everyone else in that room. Any expired pastry for my son? It was a question born of desperation, of love, of a mother willing to set aside her pride for the sake of her child. And it was a question that had changed 2 lives forever. Marcus realized something in that moment. Wealth wasn't about how much money you had. It wasn't about the cars you drove or the houses you owned. It was about what you did with it. It was about the people you lifted up, the voices you chose to hear. Shanice's voice had been quiet, almost invisible in that busy bakery. But Marcus had heard it, and he had chosen to act. That choice had rippled outward, creating something bigger than either of them. A job, a home, a future, a life rebuilt brick by brick, moment by moment. And it all started with one man choosing to see a mother and her son, choosing to listen, choosing to care. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply pay attention, to notice the people around us, to hear the questions they're asking, even when they're whispered, to recognize that everyone has a story, a struggle, a voice that deserves to be heard. Shanice didn't ask for charity that day. She asked for scraps. But what she received was something far greater: dignity, opportunity, hope. And Marcus didn't just give her a job. He gave her the chance to rebuild her life on her own terms with her own strength. That's the power of kindness. Not just the act itself, but the belief behind it. The belief that people are worth investing in. That a single moment of compassion can change the trajectory of a life. Shanice and Elijah are thriving now. Elijah is in 2nd grade, excelling in school. Shanice was recently promoted to a management position at the company. She's saving money, building a future, dreaming again. And Marcus? He's still running his businesses, still making deals, still moving through the world, but he moves differently now. He pays attention. He listens. He looks for the quiet voices, the ones that might otherwise go unheard, because he knows that those voices matter, that behind every question, every plea, every whispered hope, there is a human being worthy of love, respect, and opportunity. This story reminds us that kindness doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. A mother asked for an expired pastry. A stranger offered so much more. And in that exchange, 2 lives were transformed. We all have the power to do this. To see, to hear, to act, to choose compassion over indifference, to choose connection over isolation. So I want to ask you, what voices are you hearing today? What needs are you noticing? What small act of kindness could you offer that might change someone's world? Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us about a time someone helped you or a time you helped someone else. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And remember, we're all just walking each other home. Sometimes we lead, sometimes we follow. But we're always better when we do it together with open hearts and outstretched hands. Thank you for watching The Black Voices. Subscribe if you haven't already. And join us as we continue to share stories that remind us of our shared humanity, our resilience, and the beauty of voices that refuse to be silenced.